Dylan Gonzalez with GeekVibesNation.com and the Home Dance Film Festival podcast. I am here today with Edson Oda, the director and writer of 9 Days, which premiered earlier this year in theaters and will be available on Blu-ray and digital on November 2nd. How are you today, Edson?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. I had the distinct pleasure of watching your movie at Sundance way back in 2020.
Oh, wow. That's
At,
a while ago.
all year 2020, I proclaimed it my favorite movie of the year.
Oh,
And
thank you.
then it got delayed till this year, and it is my favorite movie of this year. You've created a very beautiful movie. And I guess just going back to that Sundance experience, can you kind of tell me your experience with that, especially since it's one of the few in-person festivals you've been able to attend with this movie?
No, it was amazing, and it was pretty much like my whole life. My dream was just like making a movie and having my movie premiere at Sundance. So it was kind of it was very like, it was as spiritual as the movie is somehow. It was just like having people watching it, and then not just screening the movie at Sundance, but also the reactions we had, like having people just coming to me and saying like how much that movie meant to them. And then like some people come to me, oh yeah, this movie kind of changed my life, saved my life, even. Or for them sharing like some experience they went through, talk about trauma, talk about loss, talk about loneliness. And for me, like, meant the world, because I think somehow when you make movies, you want just to connect and give something, and maybe get something from the audience. I think it was exactly what happened in that film festival.
Oh, that's great. And I know it has been a long journey from that festival to getting this film in theaters. And in that time, the significance of the theme of social isolation that deals with in part has grown with greater significance since then. Has the film took on any new meaning for you during this time? Has it evolved with you at all?
I think so. It's interesting. I think I devolve. I think sometimes, but I think having deeper understanding on, I guess, isolation and loneliness, and I went through my difficult times, but I think during the pandemic and seeing the isolation, not just my isolation, my loneliness, but I think everyone was in isolation and in their own loneliness, and the lack of connection. I think there's so much in this movie that talks about that. I remember there's a scene in the movie. I don't know if people, if people didn't watch it yet, but that is kind of a reenactment of a day in the beach, and I remember just like during the pandemic, I was I think in the beginning no one would go out for anything, and then I remember just okay, now we can just go outside, and I went to the beach, and I felt the water in my feet and the wind and stuff, and I cried. I felt like, wow, this is so we take for granted, and then when it was experienced at that time, it was just okay, this is very valuable. And I think those kind of things, you kind of rethink about what you do and you've been doing, and hopefully I think when people watch it, they will somehow take something from that.
It's great. And I know a lot of audiences, whenever they look at this film, they'll see a lot of people that they may recognize from bigger franchises, and you have a lot of big names, but I know you're very a person who's very deliberate about your casting and not just going for the biggest names. What in particular about some of these performers did you see in them that maybe audiences aren't aware of that side of them that they bring to this movie?
Yeah, I can talk about let's talk about Will, right? Winston was the main. Yeah, so it was interesting. Like, since the first conversation I had with him, it's just like we talked like for 4 hours, and it was interesting from Winston. I think for me it was very important that the character wouldn't be judged by the actor. The actor would have the empathy, for the character, because the character is I wrote him based on my uncle who took his own life actually, and my uncle, but also about me and about our connection and how we're different, but we're kind of in some sort of ways the same. So for me, it was interesting to it was essential to have someone who knew where that character was coming from. And Winston, he has like a huge heart, and he and empathy as well, and I could feel that he would respect that character. He wouldn't judge that character, and for me that meant a lot. And then I think like there's I think Will, in the end of the movie, he's someone, and the beginning of the movie is someone else, and I want to cast someone who could see, okay, this is the Will of the end of the movie. And Winston felt that the Will of the end of the movie, and then was like bigger, and it was just full of life. And then my job as a director is just like, oh, how can I hide it? How can I just compress it, suppress it? And then in the end, he just like explodes and become himself. So I think that's one of the other reasons that I cast him as Will.
That's great. After finding the performers for these roles, did any of the characters change in any ways to fit some of the people you cast?
Yeah, you mean the characters change? No, of course, yeah. No, it's interesting, like, because you have what I learned. It's you can't have an image or like a very exact idea of who your character is going to be, or the face or anything. It's interesting because then they just it's almost like a living being, and then I think for the actors, they just start shaping the characters according to how they felt about them. And of course, I think as a director, you just have to guide them and try to just stay in that sandbox, and not go to to a place that they shouldn't go. But rather than that, it's more like they are creating the character, and I'm just like maybe guiding them. So in some sort of ways, they become very different from what I kind of had in mind, in the best way possible. And they just add some stuff and lines, or ways of behaviors, and that was amazing, because it was just there was a character that was on the page, but it wasn't alive yet. So I think when they add their experience and they take on it, then the characters were like living beings.
That's great. In the movie, Will has to choose which characters get to have the privilege of moving on to life. And through some of his own baggage, he is kind of guiding who he thinks would be worthy to going to that next step. How does what Will feels like exemplifies who can exist in a world line up with how you personally feel about it?
Yeah, not necessarily like my views in the world are the same as Will, but I think comes from a place of sometimes when you look to the world and you feel frustrated and you feel like I don't know, and what we as society, as human beings, we're just pushing forward, who we are, who we are following, who are the leaders, who are the people who feel like this person is the person who needs to be followed, and you feel frustrated, and I think for Will in this movie, since he went through a lot of bad times when he was alive, he wants to make sure that the person he chooses is strong. It's the person that will survive. It's more like it's not like this person is going to leave. This person is going to survive. This person is going to thrive as, you know, as a Homo sapiens, and I think the way he does that, since he sees himself as like a weak person who wasn't able to, you know, survive in this world, he wants to choose someone who doesn't look like him, you know, who has traits that are the opposite of the traits that he had as a human being. I think himself is like too sensitive or too weak or too, you know, caring or too, and then I think what he tries to, just not that he's choosing bad people, but he is just giving privilege to someone who he knows is gonna, you know, okay, I'm gonna go to the war and I'm gonna survive. So that's, I think, his method.
Okay. And I think we're running out of time here, but just as one kind of final overarching question, instead of asking you your, like, what do you have next coming up? A lot of directors, like Hollywood, has set up this system of wanting to position success as like, what kind of franchise can we launch to you? What can we give to you? Can you just kind of just touch a little bit on how you personally feel about juggling artistic integrity with ambition, and kind of maybe some of where you want to see your career go to moving forward, and kind of what people can get from this film overall?
Yeah, that's hard. That's a hard question. You know, it's just, I think that it's less about what you know, because they're big movies or studio movies and blockbusters. They're just amazing movies and changed my life, you know, in a way that they're magical. And they made me choose, you know, be a filmmaker as well. So it's kind of it's hard to make this kind of separation between, oh, these movies are more like artistic and the other movies are, and I think they're good movies on both sides, you know, good and bad movies on both sides. I think it's more about like finding my career. I think I would be happy one day just make like a bigger movie or something that, you know, could be but I think no matter what I do, I want the same kind of reaction that I'm having from 9 days, you know, in a way that people watch it and it's something, I don't know, it's just like a deep connection with people, and they just like come to me and they talk about things, and we kind of I don't know, I don't know those people, but I feel like we are the same somehow, and it's crazy. It's kind of it is spiritual somehow, and I feel like no matter if they're big movies or smaller movies, I think that's kind of the feeling I want to have when I with my audience.
Yeah, that's great. I urge everyone to go on this journey with you. Whenever the movie comes out on Blu-ray and digital on November 2nd, I sincerely appreciate you taking your time to speak with me.
No, thanks so much, man. Yeah,
Pleasure. Thank you so much.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Right.
Bye-bye. Bye. Thank you, Jim.